Old Grognard says, let's learn how spellcasting works in Second Edition AD&D. Spellcasting in Second Edition was different than what you might be used to in newer games. On the player's end, spells are either cast as a priest or as a mage. I'll explain how casting works in general before going into the specifics of each type of caster. Monsters use different rules, so I won't go into those here. I'll stick to just the basics of spellcasting for PCs. There are no cantrips or zero-level spells. All spells that the players can cast use spell slots. Speaking of spell slots, they worked differently than what you might be used to as well. I'll use the example of Jimbo the Wizard to help explain this. He's used all of his spells and needs to memorize more. Jimbo is second level, so according to table 21 on page 30 of the PHB, he can memorize 2 first-level spells. After a good night's rest, he can memorize new spells. Since he is a wizard, he does magic as a mage, and therefore has to study his spellbook. Unlike some later versions of the game, he has to choose what each spell slot is going to be now while he is memorizing, and not at the time of casting. For our example, he has the following spells in his spellbook: Detect Magic, Read Magic, Magic Missile, and Spider Climb. Since he and his party are heading into battle, he chooses to memorize 2 magic missiles. Memorizing spells takes 10 minutes per level of spell, so Jimbo loading 2 magic missiles into his head takes 20 minutes. By rules as written, a character has a spell memorized until they cast it. They can't change it once it is memorized. However, it was a common house rule to let a character swap out spells using the same rules they used to memorize them. So if Jimbo needed Spider Climb, he would take 10 minutes with his spellbook and swap out one of his magic missiles for Spider Climb. Classes that cast as priests worked the same way, only they would pray for spells instead of studying a spellbook. Otherwise, the actual game mechanics were the same. By the way, this method of handling magic is what people are referring to when they talk about Vancian magic. When a character casts a spell, the rules are more restrictive than in later games. Characters are considered to be casting their spell from when the round starts until the spell goes off on their initiative. Since you roll initiative every round in 2E, you have no idea when this will be beforehand. The caster also can't move while casting, and they can't cast from the back of a moving mount or something that moves roughly, like a wagon on a bumpy road. This is determined by the DM. There aren't any hard and fast rules for figuring this out. Since the caster can't move while casting, they get no dexterity bonus to AC while casting, and they need both hands free as well. Some DMs allowed clerics to use their holy symbol on their shield to cast if the spell required their holy symbol as a component, and so allowed them to use their shield while casting. Again, this was up to the DM. To add insult to injury, if a caster is hit by an attack or fails a saving throw before their spell goes off, the spell will fizzle and they lose the spell. This is why there is no counter spell in Second Edition, since you can counterspell by throwing rocks at casters or whatever. Casters still use verbal, somatic, and material components, although material components are an optional rule. So as far as character classes go, wizards, specialist wizards, and bards all cast spells as mages. They use a spellbook, can't cast spells while wearing armor, and don't automatically gain any new spells as they level up. They gain new spells by copying from other spellbooks or from scrolls. There is a percentage chance of this succeeding or failing based on the character's intelligence, which is listed on page 16 of the PHB. If they fail, they can't try again and have a chance of success until they gain a level. Clerics, druids, rangers, and paladins all cast spells as priests. They pray for spells and have access to new ones whenever they level up. They also have a percentage chance of spell failure if they have a 12 wisdom or less. On the upside, they can cast spells while wearing armor. However, they have to abide by whatever their higher power requires of them. This is in contrast to those who cast as mages, who are not bound by any moral or ethical code in order to get new spells. That pretty much covers the basics of how player characters cast spells in Second Edition AD&D. Nikola Tesla's giant pigeon and I wish you a wonderful rest of your day.